My brother got everything when Mom died. The house, the rental property, all of it. I got a box of photo albums and $10,000. We were best friends for 37 years. I've been sitting on this for 6 weeks and I can't hold it anymore. I don't even know what I'm looking for by posting this. Validation maybe. Or maybe someone who's been through it to tell me it gets easier. Or maybe I just need to say it out loud to strangers because I can't say it to anyone I actually know without my voice cracking like I'm 15 years old again. My brother and I were best friends. And I don't mean that in the way people throw it around at funerals. I mean we were actually, genuinely, talk on the phone 3 times a week, drive 4 hours to help each other move, fall asleep on each other's couches, best friends. For 37 years. Since before I could form memories. His name is Craig. I'm not going to bother with fake names because honestly who cares at this point. Craig is 2 years younger than me. I'm 39. We grew up in a 3-bedroom ranch house outside of Green Bay. Not in Green Bay, outside of it, in one of those unincorporated township areas where the houses are a quarter mile apart and there's a Casey's General Store that functions as the social hub for everyone over 60. Our dad left when I was 9 and Craig was 7. Mom never remarried. She worked at Bellin Hospital in patient intake for 31 years. She drove a Buick LeSabre until 2014 and then a used Chevy Equinox after that. She went to Friday Fish Fry at the same supper club every single week from the time I was in middle school until she couldn't drive anymore. She liked the Packers fine, but she loved the Brewers. She kept a garden that was way too big for one person and gave away bags of tomatoes and zucchini to anyone who made eye contact with her in August. She was a good mom. I need to say that before any of the rest of this because it matters. She was a good mom. Craig and I did everything together. I don't just mean as kids, I mean as adults. When I got married in 2012, Craig was my best man and gave a speech that made my wife's grandmother cry. When he got married in 2014, I was his best man and my speech wasn't as good, but he hugged me so hard after it that he spilled his beer down my back and we both laughed until we couldn't breathe. Our wives got along. Not in a forced way. In a real way. Sarah and Julie would sit on the porch at Mom's house during holidays and drink wine and talk while Craig and I threw the football with our kids in the yard. My daughter Emma is 8. Craig's boys are 10 and 7. Those 3 kids grew up more like siblings than cousins. I need to tell you about the deck because it matters later. Summer of 2019. Craig and I built a deck on the back of Mom's house. She'd been talking about wanting one for years and we decided we'd just do it ourselves that June. We took a week off work, I drove up from Madison, he came from Appleton, and we spent 7 days in Mom's backyard in 90-degree heat building this deck. We had no idea what we were doing. We watched YouTube videos on my phone propped up against a cooler. We mismeasured the joists on the first day and had to tear out half a day's work. Craig hit his thumb with a framing hammer so hard it turned black and he didn't have a normal thumbnail again for 8 months. Mom kept bringing us lemonade and ham sandwiches and sitting in a lawn chair giving us commentary like she was broadcasting a Packers game. And there's a flag on the play, looks like Matt's using the wrong drill bit again. That was the best week of my adult life. I know how that sounds. I've had a wedding, I've had the birth of my daughter, I've had all the big things. But that week, man, it was 90 degrees and we were sunburned and we were arguing about deck board spacing and it was perfect. On the last night we sat on the finished deck, which was honestly not great. It was a little uneven on the south side and we used the wrong stain color, and we drank spotted cow and Mom sat between us and she said, "My boys built me a deck." That was it. That was all she said. My boys built me a deck. I'm going to move forward now because I'm already having trouble typing. Mom got sick in early 2023. Pancreatic cancer. By the time they caught it, it was stage 4. She had maybe 8 months. She died in October 2023. I was there. Craig was there. We were both holding her hands. That part one don't need to get into because it's not what this post is about and also because I genuinely cannot. Here's what the post is about. Mom had a will. I didn't know she had one. I mean, I figured she probably did something at some point. She was organized, she was practical, but we never talked about it. She never sat us down and said, "Here's the plan." Or at least she never sat me down. The will left the house, the 3-bedroom ranch, the one with the deck, the one where Craig and I carved our initials into the basement doorframe when I was 11 and he was 9, to Craig. Free and clear. The house appraised at $310,000. The will also left her rental property, a little 2-bedroom she'd bought in 2008 when prices were low, over on the east side of town, to Craig. That one's worth about $175,000. The will left me personal belongings and the sum of $10,000. Personal belongings. Photo albums. A box of Christmas ornaments. Dad's old tackle box. $10,000. I sat in the attorney's office and I read it 3 times. I read it a 4th time. I looked at Craig and he was looking at the table. Not at me. At the table. I said, "Craig." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you know about this?" And here's the part. Here's the part one keep replaying in my head at 2 a.m. when I should be sleeping, but instead I'm lying next to my wife staring at the ceiling fan going around and around. He said, "Mom told me about this about 2 years ago. I thought you knew." He thought I knew. He thought I knew that our mother was going to leave me nothing and him everything, and he never once in 2 years brought it up. Not on a single phone call. Not at a single Thanksgiving. Not when we drove up together to visit her in the hospital. Not when we sat on that deck, the deck we built, and watched the sun go down over the field behind the house 3 days before she died. He thought I knew. Update 1. The week after. The first few days I was just numb. I drove home to Madison and I sat in the driveway for 20 minutes before I went inside. Sarah could tell something was wrong the second she saw me. I showed her the will. She read it standing at the kitchen counter and her face went through about 4 different things in 30 seconds. "This can't be right," she said. "It's right." "No, I mean, she wouldn't. She wouldn't do this. There's a mistake, or Craig." "It's not a mistake. There's an attorney. It's notarized. It's real." Sarah's reaction was complicated. She was angry. She was angry in a way I wasn't ready to be yet, because I was still in the stage where my brain was trying to come up with an explanation that didn't mean what it obviously meant. Sarah skipped right past that stage. She went straight to, "Your brother knew for 2 years and never told you." She kept coming back to that. The 2 years. Not the money, not the house. The silence. 2 years of looking you in the face and knowing. But she was also scared. She said, and I remember this exactly, she said, "I don't want you to lose your brother over a house." And I understood what she meant. She'd seen what happened with her own family when her grandfather died and the cousins went to war over a lake cabin up near Hayward. 5 years of lawsuits and nobody speaks to each other anymore. She didn't want that for us. For our kids. I told her I didn't either. But here's the thing about that week. I started going back through things. Little things I hadn't thought about before that now felt different with this new context. Craig being the one who always took Mom to her doctor's appointments. I'd offered, multiple times, but he said he had it covered since he lived closer. Craig having dinner with Mom every Sunday night, just the 2 of them. I thought it was nice. I thought, good for Craig, he's being a good son. Now I don't know what to think. Were those dinners innocent? Were they strategic? Was he sitting at that kitchen table, in that house, with our mother, talking about the future? His future? I don't know. And I don't know which answer is worse. If he manipulated her, if he spent 2 years slowly convincing a sick, scared woman that he deserved more, then he's not the person I thought he was. Not even close. But if he didn't, if Mom just genuinely decided on her own that Craig should get everything and I should get a box of ornaments and 10 grand, then my mother loved me less than my brother for my entire life and I never knew it. I keep bouncing between those 2 options and they both make me want to throw up. I called Craig that Wednesday, 5 days after the reading. I tried to be calm. I tried to be the reasonable older brother, which is a role I've been playing for 37 years, so you'd think I'd be good at it by now. "Craig, I just want to talk about this." "Okay. I don't understand why Mom would do this. Do you?" Silence. Then, she told me she felt like I was more involved in her day-to-day life toward the end. She said she wanted to make sure I was taken care of since I did most of the caregiving. Most of the caregiving? "Craig, I drove up every other weekend. I took FMLA leave for 3 weeks. "I know you did. I'm telling you what she said. "And you didn't think to call me? In 2 years. To say, hey, heads up, Mom's planning to leave me everything and you nothing." More silence. Then, and this is what broke something in me that I'm not sure can be fixed, I didn't think it was my place. He didn't think it was his place. To tell his own brother. His best friend. The guy he built a deck with. The guy whose daughter calls him Uncle Craig and draws him pictures of horses that he puts on his refrigerator. It wasn't his place. I hung up. I shouldn't have, but I did. Update 2. The following month. I talked to a lawyer. I didn't want to. Sarah didn't want me to. But I talked to one because I needed to understand what my options even were. I met with an estate attorney in Madison, a guy named Harris who had a picture of a walleye on his wall and a University of Wisconsin diploma and immediately made me feel like I was in the right office. Here's what he told me, and I'll summarize because he talked for 45 minutes and charged me $400 for it. Contesting a will in Wisconsin is possible but difficult. You essentially have to prove one of a few things: that the person wasn't mentally competent when they signed it, that someone exerted undue influence over them, or that there was fraud. The will was signed in 2021. Mom was 71 and by all accounts mentally sharp. She had her own attorney. She signed it with witnesses. Harris said the undue influence angle was possible but that it would be expensive to pursue, hard to prove, and could take 2 to 3 years. He also said something that stuck with me. He said, even if you win, you'll have spent $100,000 and destroyed whatever's left of your family. I've seen it happen 50 times. You need to decide what this is really about for you. Is it the money? Is it the principle? Is it the relationship? Because you probably can't save all three. I drove home and I sat with that for a long time. I decided not to contest the will. Not yet. Instead, I decided to try one more time with Craig. Face to face. Man to man. Brother to brother. I wanted to give him a chance to do the right thing. Not because a lawyer told him to. Because he wanted to. I drove up to Appleton on a Saturday. I called ahead. I said I was coming, I wanted to talk, no lawyers, no wives, just us. He agreed. I got there around noon. We sat at his kitchen table. Julie made herself scarce, took the boys somewhere. I appreciated that. I said my piece. I told him this wasn't about money, although the money mattered because Sarah and I aren't rich and $310,000 plus $175,000 is $500,000 and that changes a person's life. I told him it was about fairness. About what's right. I told him Mom loved us both, I had to believe that, and that whatever her reasons were for the will, the right thing, the brother thing, the friend thing, was to split it. 50-50. Down the middle. Like we split everything our whole lives. Craig listened. He nodded. He looked at his hands a lot. And then he said, I hear you. I do. But Mom made her decision and I need to respect that. I was the one who was here. I was the one who drove her to chemo. I was the one who cleaned up after her when she couldn't make it to the bathroom. I did that, Matt. Not you. And I'm not saying that to be cruel, but that's what happened and Mom saw that and she made her choice. I couldn't breathe for a second. Because some of that was true. He was closer. He did do more of the daily stuff. But I was there too. I was there. I took leave from work. I held her hand. I changed her sheets. It wasn't like I disappeared. I was 4 hours away. He was 45 minutes. Geography isn't love. I stood up. I said, okay. I walked to the door. He followed me. At the door, he put his hand on my shoulder and said, I don't want this to change things between us. I looked at him and I said, it already has, Craig. I drove 4 hours home and I cried for the first time since Mom's funeral. Somewhere around Oshkosh, on 41, in the left lane, doing 72 miles an hour with tears running down my face like an idiot. Update 3. 2 months later. Thanksgiving was a disaster. Not a dramatic one. A quiet one. The worst kind. We usually do Thanksgiving at Craig's place or Mom's place, alternating years. Obviously, Mom's place was out. Craig's wife Julie texted Sarah in early November to start planning. Sarah showed me the text and neither of us said anything for a full minute. We went. We shouldn't have, maybe, but we went because of Emma. Because Emma had been asking about her cousins. She'd been asking when we were going to Uncle Craig's house for the next barbecue. She asked me that the week after the will reading, and I had to go into the garage and stand there for 5 minutes pretending to look for something because I couldn't let my 8-year-old see me like that. So we went to Appleton for Thanksgiving. It was awful. It was polite and pleasant and everyone passed the potatoes and said please and thank you and it was absolutely awful. Craig and I didn't make eye contact for more than a second at a time. We didn't watch football together on the couch like we always do. He was in the living room and I was at the kitchen table helping Emma color a turkey she'd drawn. Julie tried too hard to make everything normal. Sarah was so tense she gave herself a migraine by 4 p.m. and we left early. In the car on the way home, Emma said, Daddy, is Uncle Craig mad at us? I said, no, sweetheart. Nobody's mad. Then how come you and Uncle Craig didn't play football with the boys? I just wasn't feeling up to it today. Are you sick? No. I'm okay. She went quiet for a while and then she said, I miss how it used to be. She's 8. She's 8 years old and she can already feel it. Kids know. They always know. You think you're hiding it and they know everything. Christmas was worse because we didn't go. Sarah and I made up an excuse. We were going to her parents' place in Eau Claire, which we were, but normally we'd do both. We'd do Christmas Eve with Craig's family and then drive to Eau Claire for Christmas Day. This year we just didn't. Craig texted me on Christmas morning. "Merry Christmas. Miss you guys." I texted back, "Merry Christmas." That was it. The entirety of our Christmas communication. Two guys who used to stay up until 2 a.m. on Christmas Eve assembling bike parts and eating Mom's cookies. Then January happened. I was driving through town. I don't even remember why I was up that way. I think I was coming back from a work thing in Sheboygan. I wasn't planning to drive past Mom's house, but the route took me through her neighborhood and I wasn't going to go out of my way to avoid it. That felt like letting it win. Whatever it was. I turned onto County Road MM. I could see the house from 2 blocks away. The ranch. The tan siding. The big maple in the front yard that Craig and I used to climb until Mom yelled at us. The deck in the back that you can just barely see from the road if you know where to look. There was a sign in the yard. For sale. Century 21. Bright yellow and black. Stuck right there in the frozen ground next to the mailbox that still had Mom's name on it. Patricia Lindgren. He's selling it. He's selling the house. I pulled over. I pulled to the side of the road about 100 feet past the house and I put the car in park and I sat there. I sat there with the engine running and the heat on and I stared at the rearview mirror at that sign. The house where I learned to ride a bike. The house where Craig and I shared a room until I was 13. The house where Mom made hot dish every Tuesday because she said it was the only thing both of us would eat without complaining. The house where we carved ML plus CL into the doorframe in the basement with Dad's old pocket knife, the one that's in a tackle box in my garage right now. ML and CL. Matt Lindgren and Craig Lindgren. 1996. I was 11. He was 9. Mom found it and she should have been mad, but she just traced the letters with her finger and said, "Well, now we can never move." He's selling it. He didn't call me. He didn't text me. He didn't say, "Hey Matt, I'm thinking about putting the house on the market. I know it means a lot to both of us. I wanted you to hear it from me first." He just put a sign in the yard. I sat in that car for 45 minutes. The engine running. The heat blowing. My phone sitting on the passenger seat. I kept picking it up and putting it down. I didn't know who to call. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I wanted. Did I want to buy it? Could I even afford it? Did I want to walk through it one more time? Did I want to go find Craig and scream at him? Did I want to knock on the door and tell whoever was going to buy it about the doorframe in the basement and ask them to please not sand it down? I didn't do any of those things. I just sat there. 45 minutes. Engine running. Watching the for sale sign in my mirror and trying to figure out when everything broke and whether there was ever a moment where I could have stopped it. Update 4. Last week. I haven't talked to Craig since Thanksgiving. 3.5 months. The longest we've ever gone without talking in our entire lives, including the time in high school when he broke my fishing rod and I told him I'd never forgive him. I forgave him in 3 days. This has been 3.5 months and I'm nowhere close. I found out through Julie, who still talks to Sarah, though less and less, that the house sold. $305,000. Closed in February. The rental property is still his. He's collecting rent on it. So Craig walked away from our mother's death with roughly $500,000 in assets. I walked away with photo albums, Christmas ornaments, a tackle box, and 10 grand. I keep doing the math in my head. I know I shouldn't, but I can't stop. If he'd split it 50-50, which is what any decent person would do, what any decent brother would do, I would have gotten around $250,000. That's Emma's college fund. That's paying off our mortgage. That's breathing room. That's not worrying about the transmission on Sarah's car. That's not having the argument about whether we can afford to fix the furnace or just get through one more winter. But it's not about the money. I keep saying that and I know it sounds like a lie, but it's not. It's about the fact that my brother, my best friend, the person I trusted more than anyone on earth except my wife, knew for 2 years that our mother was going to cut me out and he said nothing. He sat on that deck with me. He ate Thanksgiving turkey with me. He watched me drive 4 hours every other weekend to take care of our dying mother, and he knew the whole time that she'd already decided I was worth less. And now the house is gone. The door frame. The deck. The room we shared. All of it. Some family from Oshkosh or wherever is going to move in and paint the walls and rip out Mom's kitchen, and they'll never know that 2 brothers carved their initials in the basement in 1996. They'll never know that a woman sat on that deck and said, "My boys built me a deck," and meant it with her whole heart. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe that's the part one keep getting wrong. Maybe she said it and meant it, but still, underneath, there was a preference. A favorite. And I was never it. I've been going to therapy. I didn't want to, but Sarah pushed and she was right. My therapist asked me what I lost and I said, a house and some money. And she just looked at me and waited, and I sat there for probably 2 full minutes, and then I said, I lost my brother, and I couldn't talk for the rest of the session. Sarah and I are okay. We're solid. She's angry on my behalf in a way that I can't be yet because my anger is all tangled up with grief and guilt and love. She just has clean, clear anger. She says what Craig did was wrong. Full stop. No qualifiers. She doesn't care about his justifications. She doesn't care that he was closer, that he drove Mom to more appointments. She says that's what family does, and you don't get paid $500,000 for it. I love her for that clarity even though I can't share it. Emma drew a picture last week. It was our family and Craig's family all together at what I think was supposed to be the county fair, based on the big circle I'm pretty sure was a Ferris wheel. She put herself between Craig's 2 boys. She gave everyone smiles. She asked me if she could send it to Uncle Craig, and I said yes because what was I supposed to say? Julie texted Sarah to say Craig put it on the fridge. I don't know what to do with that. Edit. Craig called me last night. First phone call in 3.5 months. I saw his name on my screen and my heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I almost didn't pick up. I was standing in the kitchen and Sarah was in the living room and she looked at me and I looked at her and she just nodded, so I picked up. Hey, he said. Hey. Long pause. I could hear his TV in the background. Sounded like basketball. I know you saw the house went up for sale, he said. Julie told me you drove past it. Yeah. I should have told you before I listed it. That wasn't right. I waited because I thought there was more coming. There wasn't. That was it. That was the thing he thought he owed me. Not, I should split this with you. Not, I should have told you about the will 2 years ago. Not, I'm sorry. He was sorry about the for sale sign. About the notification. Not about any of the rest of it. Okay, I said. I don't want things to be like this, he said. The boys keep asking about Emma. Tyler asked me last week why we don't see you guys anymore and I didn't know what to tell him. Tell him the truth. Matt. Tell him his dad got everything and I got nothing and he was fine with it. Tell him that. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Craig. That's kind of the whole point. Another long pause. Then he said something and his voice got thick and I could tell he was struggling too. I took care of her. Every day. I was the one who was there when she was scared at night. I was the one who held the bucket when she was sick from chemo. I earned this, Matt. I know you don't want to hear that, but I earned it. He earned it. He earned the house we grew up in. He earned the initials in the doorframe. He earned the deck. He earned all of it because he lived 45 minutes away and I lived 4 hours away, and that, apparently, is how love is measured now. In minutes. In proximity. In geography. I gotta go, I said. Matt. Come on. I gotta go, Craig. I hung up. I put the phone on the counter and I stood there and Sarah came in and she didn't say anything. She just stood next to me. After a while she put her hand on my back and I put my hands on the counter and I leaned there and I just breathed. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I can test the will. I don't know if I can afford to. I don't know if I even want to because Harris was right. Even if I win, I lose. I'll have spent 2 years in court fighting my only brother over my dead mother's house, and at the end of it, win or lose, there's no version where Craig and I sit on a deck drinking Spotted Cow ever again. The house is gone. Someone else lives there now. Someone else is walking on the deck we built. I hope they know it's uneven on the south side. I hope they kept the stain even though the color was wrong. I keep thinking about that week. June 2019. The sun. The YouTube videos. The wrong drill bit. Mom in her lawn chair. Craig's black thumbnail. The lemonade. The ham sandwiches. My boys built me a deck. I don't know how to end this because it doesn't have an ending. It's just this thing that happened and now everything is different and I can't unhappen it. My brother has a house and a rental property and $305,000 from the sale. I have a box of photo albums and a tackle box with a pocket knife that still has basement doorframe dust on the blade. And my daughter is going to ask about the barbecue again. Probably this weekend. Probably when the weather warms up. She's going to say, "Daddy, when are we going to Uncle Craig's?" and I'm going to have to say something and I don't know what it's going to be. I'm sitting in my car in the driveway right now typing this. Engine running. Heat on. Sarah's going to come to the window soon and wonder why I haven't come inside. I should go in. I should eat dinner. I should help Emma with her homework. But I just need another minute.